What you know, their coordinators and you on offense. Some personnel is mostly the same, but they got a new coordinator. What's the challenge? I would say the same deal with figuring out your guys on defense, but what's the challenge trying to figure out what they want to do?
Oh, you're anytime you go into a season and there's a change at coordinator, you find yourself watching a lot of different film, right? You're watching Eagles personnel, you're watching the Chargers, you're watching things that he might have done in the past and other places that he's been, but then you got to look at the staff and you see a variety of different coaches that have been there for a long time, some involved with the run game, some in the pass game. So you have a lot to look at. You don't want to find yourself week one looking at too much and you're starting to see ghosts and things that, aren't really what they're going to do because it's week one and who knows how much they've changed, how much they're going to rely on what they've done in the past, how much he's going to change with the players that he has, right? Because a lot of guys have to adapt to the players that they have on the current roster. So ultimately, week one, you got to do what you do best. You got to play sound with good fundamentals, good technique. You got to play hard. You got to tackle. You got to get off blocks. You got to make plays on the football. But it's always a challenge early in the season because you don't have a lot of data. That needs to build up as you get going. So for now, there's a lot of guys watching a lot of different things.
Do you think there's any value in them watching any Boston College stuff, or does that not even translate on you guys?
Well, I hope they're watching a lot of different stuff. I'm not going to tell them whether they should or shouldn't be watching that stuff. But I really don't know what they'd be watching, to be honest with you. So I think it, kind of goes hand in hand. They'll probably watch some of our preseason stuff, but I'm not sure what they'll do. They got to figure that part out.
What's your preference for calling plays from down on the field or up in the box?
I like to be up in the box right now. That's where I was in the preseason games. I've been on the field the last couple of years, obviously. They didn't let me up there, but, it's calm, it's quiet. I can kind of let everything out. You take the emotions out of it a little bit, which sometimes good and bad. It's nice to be around the players when you get excited and the guys get excited and they get them going and they calm them down and they talk to them. So I do think there's pluses and minuses to that. So there's part of me that likes to be involved with that aspect of it and be around the guys. But I think from calling it, setting stuff up, having your notes, setting the next series up, looking at the iPad, kind of having time to study while the offense is on the field and really get thoughts for the next possession, kind of self-scout yourself a little bit too and see what you've done, what has been good against you, what has worked for us. I just think you can get more accomplished from that standpoint. But I understand why people want to be down on the field too. There's moments that I want to be down. But I'll be upstairs. I think it's best for our team right now.
Jeff, it's been a couple years since they started the brotherly shove, and it's had a lot of success. As a defensive coordinator, how do you view that play? Is there any way that you can start to turn the tide and have defenses have the upper hand there?
Yeah, I think it's going to be hard. They've done probably the best job out of anybody in running it, and the success rate is ridiculous. Seen some people have different plans to stop it. Some have been successful, many have not. Your best bet is to keep them out of those situations where they need a yard. I mean, they're really good at it, and we have to have a plan to stop it, so we'll certainly work on that.
How big a difference is that without Kelsey?
We'll find out. I mean, what a great player he was. I mean, watching his film right now, I have a ton of respect for him, how he played the game, how athletic he was, all the different things that they could do with him. I mean, he's really fun to watch, and I'm glad he's not playing, but a ton of respect for him and the career that he had.
Something you haven't had, obviously in college, this isn't a thing, there's no preseason. You come here, first year defensive coordinator, you want to get the ground running, show what you have, all these new ideas, but you've had to kind of bottle them in over the preseason. How has that been a challenge, just to not show too much, and are you ready just to finally unleash what you've been, jotting all these notes down throughout the preseason?
Yeah, I think, in the preseason games, the biggest thing for us was to get an evaluation of our players and let our players play fast and play with great fundamentals and technique. And certainly there's some stuff that we wish we could have done a little bit different schematically, but for one reason or another we decided not to. But the thing that we were most proud of was how hard the guys played and how physical they were. I think if you turn on the film of the last game, regardless of who was out there or what the call was, we were physical. We were running the ball. We were hitting people. We were getting off blocks. We were finishing. When you stop the tape, there's 10, 11 guys around the ball. This game goes back to it. It's still going to be about the players, and I keep saying that. It's not always about the call and the perfect call and the exotic blitz. It's the players, and if they're running and they're hitting and they're getting off blocks and they're doing all the little things right, things are going to be good regardless of what we call. But are we excited to kind of, piece it all together and come up with our first game plan and scheme up third down and try to put ourselves in different situations? Sure. I think everybody's excited about that, and that's what we've really done in practice against a really good offense every day. So, we're excited for the challenge of the season to start.
So Jeff, along those lines though, I think Matt joked that one of the preseason games you had 3 calls on your call sheet. Maybe he wasn't joking, maybe that was accurate. There is clearly buy-in, like we all talk to the guys in the locker room, there's no denying how they're bought in. How do you know if they're really truly ready to run the stuff that you've been working on because you held things back in the joint practices and in the games?
Every day we practice. Every day we practice against a really good offense with really good players. And we've done a lot more of that than we have of joint practices and preseason games. We played in 3 preseason games and we had 2 practices. We had a lot of practices against our offense every single day. So there's a lot of film, and I think now the biggest challenge for us is to figure out early in the season how much we can go into the game with, right? And then evolve and adapt as we get going. To find out what our guys, as far as volume, works best and how fast and how hard and how physical and how violent we can play and take the ball away and do all the things that we keep talking about. Now it's to find out how much we can carry in and what we need to go do our best against the Eagles.
Jeff, what did you think of just the camp that Javon and Evan put together, as rookies that are kind of going through this the first time, to the kind of impact that they did right off the bat?
I thought they had a good camp. I thought it was solid. And I've said it before, really smart guys, very instinctive. They picked up on everything really quick. I thought Ryan Downer did a great job with those safeties. A lot of extra meeting time to get them sped up. They made a lot of plays, whether it was in the run game, the pass game. They showed us their versatility. And I think they'll just keep getting better and better. I never want to judge a guy on how he plays in the first game. We got to keep building their confidence and keep them going. But I appreciate and proud of how those guys work. They're tough, they're smart, they love football, and they show their physicality in those preseason games, which was fun to see.
What's the challenge this week against that offense? I mean, it's a star-studded group of guys you got to face.
Yeah, they're big up front. They got good running backs, 2 really good running backs. They got a really good receiver core with good size and speed. The tight ends are good players, and the quarterback is dynamic. I mean, that's always going to be where you look first, right? The plays that he can make, both in the pass game and with his feet, that would be the biggest challenge. Combined with, everything else they can do in the run game, and with the receiving group that they have, it's a good group, talented group.
For you, you're going in your first game calling plays in the NFL. Is that exciting, nervous? What are your emotions going into it?
I'm excited. You put in a lot of work, a lot of time, and it's not just me, it's really the whole staff, right? Everything that we've been working forward from the moment we got hired and we sat down, we spent a long off season together. We went through OTAs, we got through training camp, we pieced it together, what we wanted, what we liked, what we didn't like, a lot of hours of different thoughts and ideas, and going through training camp and seeing what we liked against Matt, and then obviously in the limited time we had in the preseason games, and now we're in the process of piecing it all together and having a game plan. And I mean, for me, it's like this. It's just like I talk to the players, and I mean this. We're going to work really hard up until the time we kick off, and my sheet's going to be in front of me, and I'm going to let it rip. And then we're going to call it, and we're going to play fast, and we're going to be physical, and I'm not going to hesitate on the call. We're going to get it in quickly to the quay so they can look out and see what the offense is coming out in, and we can go line up and play. Once that starts, maybe I'll be a little anxious before kickoff, but we're going to work to the point where we're prepared. I trust the players, I trust the staff, and I just got to go call it, and they got to go play and execute. And I cannot wait for that to happen.
Hey Jeff, I know that you're new here, but in terms of the D linemen, the D tackles especially, a lot of them are just coming back, whether it be Colby or Devontae or Kenny. How nice is it to have a grouping of guys that know how to play with each other and are excited to get back?
Well, I think it's huge, and I also think there's a lot of depth. And I think Rebs and VO and Wendell have done such a good job with that group, meeting together, bringing them all together. It's their first time in a while playing in a 4-3. But the versatility we have in that group and the depth we have in that group, and you saw we kept quite a bit of defensive linemen because we do believe that's where it starts. And I think if you keep those guys fresh in the game, right, when it comes down to the key third downs and the key 2 minutes and the key red zone situations where you have to go get after the quarterback, you have those guys fresh to play. And they need to be. And I think that's where their production will come, and that's where our opportunity to make big plays will come.
You guys kept 6 defensive ends. Why did you feel like it was important to have Brenton and now I'm forgetting his name, but
Mosby.
Mosby as well, having those 6 DNs. I think a lot of us thought maybe you'd keep 4 or 5, but have 6 in depth at that position.
Yeah, I'm grateful that we kept them. If you watch them over the course of training camp and what they were able to do in the preseason games, they're talented pass rushers and they're young. And you can't find those guys everywhere. And we need to develop them and keep them going. But if you got a young, talented player who can rush the quarterback and plays as fast and as hard as those two do, they deserve to be on the team. And I am really proud of them for everything they accomplished, and I'm grateful that they kept them.
Jeff, you talk about letting it rip when the game arrives, and that's obviously what you want to do. With some youth at linebacker and in back end, how much of a luxury is it to have Xavier to help clean up anything that goes awry and allow you to let it rip as a play caller?
Yeah, it's huge. I mean, even the last 2 days, just grabbing him with some of our thoughts and saying, hey, if you see this, I think we can do that. Or, hey, if you see this formation, maybe we should check to that. He's the guy that you can really give those to, and he'll get it done. Because what I've noticed is over the course of training camp, I could go into a practice and say, hey, if they come out in this formation, I want you to do this. And he's right on it. And he's the type of guy, he's like, coach, just tell me the night before, and I'll get him right, and we'll be into it. But he's played a lot of football. He's got a high football IQ. He sees it really fast. He studies the game. Like, he really studies the game. So to be able to rely on a guy like that, it's like having a quarterback back there. And I'll give Quay a lot of credit too. I mean, I think Quay's taken a huge step, and I think Coach Camp and Sean Duggan have done a really good job with the linebackers and the knowledge that they've poured into him and how much he can retain and get out. So you get those two guys kind of in the middle of your defense, and I think that's very helpful.
You mentioned the Eagles' passing game, their run game in general. Is that an added stressor on the linebacker position?
Yeah, I mean, anytime you can run the ball in traditional run game and you have a quarterback that can run the ball, that's going to add stress alone, right? And then you look at how big and physical they are up front with the backs they have, and then the size and speed of some of those wideouts. I mean, it's one of the most talented offenses in the NFL. And I think they got really good coaches, both in the run game and in the pass game. So it will be a challenge.
Jeff, speaking of those linebackers, I mean, from the outside looking in, you know, you draft a guy in the 2nd round and the 3rd round. Those are obviously premium picks. But Isaiah and Eric really staved them off. I know there's some injury issues in there too. What did you find out about Isaiah and Eric that they're guys that you can trust and you can line up?
Well, I knew Isaiah, right? So a little bit easier there. I think he's one of the toughest guys on our team. Another guy who gives everything he has every play. He studies it. If you ever want to just turn on one clip and look for a guy running to the ball, turn on any clip he's in, and you'll find him when the whistle's blown trying to take the ball away. And I feel like Eric is kind of the same guy. Eric gives you a guy that can play multiple positions. He's smart, he's reliable, he's tough. Again, I think he got better as we went on, playing the position and playing in the scheme. And those young guys got better. I mean, Hop came back from an injury and battled through in the one preseason game where he didn't even really practice leading up to the game. And I kind of, probably unfair to him to have the green dot in his helmet just coming back from an injury, probably a little overwhelmed. So that's probably my fault for putting too much on him in his first preseason game coming back. But I think he took a good step against the Ravens, had practiced more, knew what it felt like, right? It wasn't the first time me talking to him in the game. So I think he did a nice job. And then with Coop, it just, he's just kind of getting back into it now. And, even yesterday, you can see what he's capable of doing, but he's got to be out there. We need him to be healthy so we can put him in those situations. But a credit to the rest of those guys who worked really hard to put themselves in the positions that they're now in.